Finally, the chirping of the spring mattress filled the bedroom like applause, shaking paper-thin walls and bearing the distant drone of TV buzz. The girl with bruised wrists bounced, now sweaty, giddy to feel her ponytail tickling her back.
People go missing in West Virginia all the time, you know. Is that right? No rhyme or reason to it. Marnie grinned. Second most caves in the whole US of A. You just go walking and poof, gone. So who is the Brood? Can you explain that? I don't want to
The
give spoilers away, but I
Oh,
need
you're
this.
fine. Brood is it just came up as basically like a group of like baby birds or like small kind of like animals like that in a nest. And it also, of course, it has like the double meaning. So to brood is also to be kind of like it's almost kind of like a melancholic sort of emotion, or to be like um sort of anxious or
Mhm.
depressed or something like that. So I thought that the
Okay.
dual meaning was kind of neat. And I was like, wow, that's actually kind of clever. But that's so the brood is essentially the children, but also hopefully the mentality or like the kind of the feeling maybe that the audience gets from the piece,
Okay.
perhaps.
What was your inspiration for writing it?
The bug presence or the creepy crawly presence in the story. I liked the idea of its kind of ambiguous relationship with humans, because on one hand this thing itself is very kind of like unsettling, and oftentimes there's no kind of like creepier thought than like encountering one in the wild, especially like on you. It's a parasite, but it almost has like a kind of symbiotic, ambivalent relationship. I kind of want to know what inspired your story,
Oh,
because
you know what? Straightforward. I was driving through West Virginia and the highway that goes from Virginia across to Ohio, like you have to go through the capital. And I was just like looking at these things, I'm like, this is terrifying. Like, what if we, like there was just nothing, nothing but mountains. You know, a few times on that drive, you can see down like a valley of mountains, and there's just nothing but green. And I was like, oh, you would be effed if you, I mean, you could do so many things out here.
classic
And
horror writer things. You'd be effed if
yeah, I mean, I really look like I'm in general a very nature orientated person, but I do recognize that it's not it's not 100% safe. Like
Mhm.
stuff goes on in the middle, and you hear all of the stories. I had just moved into this house because I just moved to America, and there's fireflies in our backyard, and they're so mysterious. Like they'll be there 1 second and then completely vanish, and you don't know whether like you really saw a firefly or it was just a spark of light from your backyard porch. People look at them and they go like it's romantic. Um,
Mhm.
but I wonder what a whole bunch of fireflies all around you all at once would be like. So
Yes.
what is horror to you, I guess, is our
You're
next.
swinging that right out at me. That's so unfair.
Well, I mean, because it's a very difficult question.
There's a kind of interesting, there's like the line in it's like anthropology and sociology both have it. It's called the make the strange familiar and the familiar strange. But it's like the idea that like you're supposed to re-examine the things you take for granted and kind of figure out this is kind of weird. And then also analyze the things that you might see and think of as weird, and then be like, no, this actually makes a lot of sense, or it's like familiar to me. And I think horror, like a lot of the horror I gravitate towards, kind of does a similar sort of thing where it'll take something that I've kind of pushed out of my mind or made mundane, and it kind of resurfaces the like in the sense of horror, the horrifying point of it, the horrifying reality. And in yours, it was kind of like it almost did like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre thing of the
Mm.
idea of the spaces between the areas that we know as being like the places where people live. We think of them as being like left to dust or left to rot, but in reality, they're hungry and they're waiting for the rest of us. I think that's a great example of horror right there, of like the kind of the thing we push out of our mind, but it's waiting for us.
I think when something is taken and thrown in so casually by the author, characters do like just horrific things, and there's no, like, it's not made into a big deal. Like when a terrible thing is not given the weight that I assign to it.
Yeah, and it's almost, it's like more unsettling because like you don't get that emotional validation of this is horrifying, and it
Mhm.
places you in the setting even more.